Hi, my name is Kevin Reif, and I'm a real estate agent with Plumtree Realty in Cincinnati, Ohio. Whether you're a real estate agent with a couple of listings or someone who's thinking of selling their home themselves, I'm here today to talk about how you can make your listing stand out against the hundreds of others that are on the market. Over the course of my career in real estate, there has been something I've seen every single time I've helped a buyer looking for a home, and it has become one of my biggest pet peeves. And that is terrible, horrible, hideously ugly listing pictures. I've seen listing photos that are out of focus and blurry. What am I even looking at? Is this the primary bedroom or the half bath? I can't even tell. Sideways or vertical. Like they took the picture landscape, but the phone didn't register the orientation, so you're sitting there with your head sideways trying to take in the picture. And your friend's like, what are you doing? And you're saying, oh, nothing, just looking at houses. And then hours go by, and your neck is sore, and you can't sleep, and it's all because of that one listing with sideways photos. With a finger covering the lens, like we found listing pictures inside a family photo album from the 90s. With a weird, little watermark from the model of the phone it was taken on in the corner. And finally, with random people just standing in the middle of the room. I believe that as realtors, we should be taking pride in our listings. People are trusting us with their homes. That's a huge deal. Our clients deserve better. Unless they're refusing to leave a room to let you take a picture, then that's kind of on them. These photos are the introduction for potential buyers to your listing. They're going to use them to make a decision whether or not it's worth their time to see the property in person. So, are you ready to get better listing photos?
Yay!
Great. Bare minimum, when you're taking photos for a real estate listing, you should take the photos with a quality camera. That could be a smartphone, a DSLR, a mirrorless, just something with a good camera. Take time to think about your composition. Think about what you want to capture. Also make sure you're showing an equal amount of floor and ceiling. Floor to ceiling ratio is super important. Make sure that the place is clean and picked up. It's hard for a buyer to picture themselves there if the place is a mess. Open up the blinds. Let that natural light in. Better light equals better photos. Take the exterior photos at a time of day when the light is good. Never at noon. Overhead lighting looks terrible. And finally, it's a little thing, but it's also a huge pet peeve of mine. Close the toilet lid when taking photos of the bathroom. It looks better, more professional, and no one wants to see inside your toilet.
Ew!
Like I said before, those quick tips should be the bare minimum. But if you really want your home to stand out, if you really want to grab buyers' attention, you should seriously consider hiring a professional real estate photographer. Now, I may be a bit biased here. Photography has always been a passion of mine. Before I had my real estate license, I started a real estate photography career at 18, mainly taking photos of my dad's listings. And I still do it to this day for other agents and their listings. But I'm serious when I say that professional photos are well worth the investment. 87% of buyers rely on listing photos to aid them with their final decision. Imagine you're a buyer and you just got back from seeing two houses that you love, and it's time to make a decision. What would you do? You would look up the listings and take a look at the pictures. And if one has amazing pictures and the other one just has okay ones, that could sway a buyer's decision regardless of how they looked in real life. On average, homes with professional photos sell 32% faster. Even in this crazy market that we're in Ohio, some homes are just sitting there unsold. And sometimes that's just because they're going unnoticed on the MLS. Professional photos are going to be eye-catching, attention-grabbing. Buyers are going to be more excited about a property before they even see it in person if the photos look great. Homes with professional photos can have their price per square foot increased by up to 47%. Professional photos look more professional. They make a home look nicer, more expensive, giving you more money for the price of your listing. That alone can make the investment to get photos done worth it. Just for a quick comparison, I took two photos of my living room, one using my phone and one using my camera. Okay, so here's an image that I took with my phone. It's not that bad, right? I took some time and arranged the pillows all nice. I stylishly placed a blanket on the back of the sofa. I put flowers out. I politely asked my girlfriend to move so she wasn't randomly in the frame. I took time to think about my composition, what exactly I wanted to capture. I had good light coming in from the windows. And I really showed off my killer view. Like I said, the picture definitely is not that bad, but it's also not great either. There are a couple things that I don't like about it. First of all, it's not wide enough. You can't see enough of the room. So I took this with an iPhone SE, which has a focal length of 28mm. Now the newer iPhones, like the iPhone 13, have a focal length of 13mm on their ultra-wide lens. So if you have to use a phone, I'd use something like that. But for me to have gotten the whole room in this shot, I would have had to stand back much further, which wasn't possible because then I would have been in the kitchen, not the living room. Another thing about this image is it's too dark. You're noticing all these harsh shadows, like here on the chair and on spots on the wall. It doesn't have that bright, warm, inviting feeling that listing photos should have. And since this is a JPEG for my phone, I can't really do a whole lot in terms of editing without it looking really weird. Another thing is real estate photos need a larger dynamic range. That's the contrast between the darkest part of the image to the brightest part of the image. Something that a lot of phones have now is something called high dynamic range, or HDR. That's when your phone takes multiple pictures at different exposures, it combines them together for one properly exposed image that's closer to what our human eyes can actually see. So in this particular image, it looks like my phone exposed more for the outside light. That's why it's a little bit darker on the inside, and we have some things that are backlit, like the chair and the flowers here. But if I had exposed for the inside, the windows would have been completely blown out, completely bright white. Then you couldn't see my amazing view. So this is getting a bit picky, but I don't like the glare that you can see here on the floor. It's not terrible here, but sometimes on a bright day when you have a wooden floor, you get a really big, bad, nasty glare that's just not really nice to look at and can be really distracting from the rest of the image. And here is the picture that I took with my camera. It's nice, right? Look how bright, warm, and inviting this looks, like a listing picture should. Very welcoming. Also, it makes my living room look so much nicer than it did in the previous image. So let's go over a few things that's going on. First of all, it's wider. You can see the whole room, the whole living space. And I didn't have to go stand way back in the coat closet to capture it. So I took this at 17mm with an f-stop of 8. That way you get a wider depth of field, putting more of the image in focus. Another thing is everything in this image is properly exposed. Just look at that view. So my camera has a larger sensor and a higher dynamic range, allowing for a higher quality image. But on top of that, a lot of this is in the editing. I did the HDR method like we talked about before, but instead of letting the program combine the images for me, I took the 5 photos of the different exposures into Photoshop and I hand blended them to get this image. And to take it a step further, I also blended in some pictures I took with flash pops in various locations around the room. That way I get this really nicely, evenly exposed image. And lastly, I used what's called a polarizing filter on the front of my lens. And what that does is it reduces the glare on semi-reflective surfaces, like we were talking about on the floor earlier. So if you look now, you don't get a big nasty glare like we had before. You can actually see the floor and the texture and the pattern, which could be really nice for certain images. Alright, so here's another shot that I took in one of my recent real estate shoots. And it's a good example of another couple ways to make your real estate listing stand out. First off, obviously, this was taken with a drone. Everyone has access to a camera, whether it's through their phone or by some other means. But not everybody has access to a drone or a license to fly it commercially. Buyers love drone shots. They stand out from the other pictures of the listing, and they give people a bird's eye view of what's going on around the property of interest. Okay, so before I show you the other unique things about this image, I want to show you the raw photo with no edits, straight out of camera. Alright, so here's the raw image, and this leads me to my next benefit about hiring a professional photographer. Obviously when I took this photo, it was rainy, and it was dreary, and it was cold, but thanks to the power of editing, I was able to make this image and make it look bright, warm, and chipper. So it would be amazing if outdoor conditions were always perfect on shoot days, but a lot of the times they're not. And when they're not, we don't need to cancel the whole shoot and delay listing the property, thanks to a lot of these powerful tools that we have at our disposal. We're able to replace this gray, cloudy sky with a nice, bright blue sky. And as for the grass, certain times of the year the grass isn't always green, just like the sky isn't always blue. So that's why sometimes I go in here and I do a grass replacement as well. Something I want to point out here is I would never edit a real estate listing photo in a way that would be dishonest. For example, these electrical boxes down here in the bottom right hand corner. In the original listing photos that I did not edit those out of the edited image. I kept them in. And that's because they're a permanent fixture. The sky isn't always blue, the grass isn't always green, but these things are always here. The last point I want to make here is about your overall professional image. If you're an agent working with a seller and they see you taking photos with your phone and they're coming out blurry or sideways, or you're leaving the toilet lid up in the bathroom, that's not a very professional look to your clients, and they may not refer you to friends and family. But on the other side of that, if you're an agent working with a seller and they see that you're willing to hire a professional photographer to take these photos that look amazing, they're going to think that you're going above and beyond for them. And they'd be more likely to tell any friends and family they may have that might be thinking about selling. Other people may just see your listings online and see how fantastic they look and want you to help them sell their home. So I hope this video was helpful for you, and I hope that you learned something. I'd love to make this the first video of a small series on different ways to help your listing stand out on the market. And maybe if there's interest, I'll even make a video showing how exactly I take and edit real estate photos for listings. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.